Daily trading recap for this Monday, the 27th of December, 2021, last week of trading for this year of 2021. So trying to finish out with a bang here. The SPY, the overall market, is of course trying to do the same thing, coming today again on all-time highs with a 1.4% day in the green. Absolute lunacy all around, even on the Qs as well too. What the VIX is at today, dropping under 18 there. It's showing just chugga, shoot. Man, this was just such a sharp V that we came off of too after that little double top or triple top, whatever you want to call that, reject that found some support around that 450 area again, then just bounced perfectly off of there. I was not predicting that, especially maybe even over this holiday weekend. I wasn't going to put my money where my mouth was to think this thing could have come back as sharply as it did, but sure enough, here we are. So we'll see if it wants to continue to sustain that type of path, or if we start to trend closer to the original slope that we've been in for the past entire year that we've been in. This crazy ride to the upside with that one. Market internals on the day for me, we are, let's see here, 9 minutes after the close. NASDAQ, $163 billion volume. NYSE, $176 billion volume. And OTC's $1.8 billion volume. Relatively low, of course, not expecting much, but always still opportunity there, and definitely had some nice traders on the day today. 2 for 3 for me today for the actual trades. I was in 2 tickers and just carrying on the same mentality of I'm still paper in everything I'm doing, but on the long side, I'm just very, very small position size. I'm actually trading with the cash account, but short side, I'm still paper. And if I'm trying to short pre-market, then I have to kind of do it mentally because trading view is kind of sucky that way. But we're doing with the best with what we got right now. Just continue to put itself in that confident and completely free and clear and open perspective with everything that we are doing. And I feel like I'm definitely getting more and more of that every single day. And A grades all around today on these trades, and nice little winners on those ones. Not beautiful, not even, I call them singles. They're not even awesome singles at that, but they're certainly great. Thesis was there, and then the chart followed along with what we were going with there. So that is everything that I'm focusing on really right now, and then knocking down pins along the way as we start to step up or get more experience more and more in each of those little individual fields. So just being in the right charts first off, then we can worry about, okay, let's think about entries and executions. Then we can worry about position sizing. Then we can worry about more about specific risk levels, risk rewards, time frame management of all that. So different layers to add on to it that we're slowly grinding upon that way too. So also continuing on that little chart system that I've been working on, just as I wanted to phrase it as the working memory chart, that these can take up the space of then me trying to remember, okay, well, we got a first green day mover here, and this is the float and this percentage move that it's up. I think like trying to reflect in my head of, okay, what have similar charts done in the past? Why have I not realized that sooner? Why don't I just keep a record of these charts of the past, a rolling 2 to 3 week time period to say, okay, now here's what they actually did, not just I think I remember, this ticker that did that, and okay, maybe we'll trade it similar to that. And it's like, no, okay, we have the exact, I don't even have to think or even try to remember those charts. I can go back to the actual chart itself and say, here's what they actually did, and try to apply that to say, hey, maybe, of course, history doesn't repeat itself, but maybe it rhymes. In the same type of pattern that I continue to try to push is your pattern or your playbook doesn't really matter if the market sentiment is saying that it's just not going to work. Like the panic dip buy, especially on OTCs, we had a little flirtation with it on AABB, but the same thing is, it's just not there. We've not seen it in a great deal of time. So to say you either have to wait for that patience to hold through until it comes into perfectly how you want it to play out, or you just got to adjust to say, the market is saying that you can only get this much, and that if you're plotting it out and that's perfectly how you're going to play it, then that's what we got to do. But that has to be the number one factor in it. You just can't try to be playing football when you're on a basketball court, right? That's just lopsided thinking that way. So let's get into the charts here. We went over to market internals. XXII, I'll talk about first. Got a nice screen recording of the level 2 and time and sales action on the second day player, just as a reference for me again. Very high floater, 150 million floater. It's a biotech. News catalyst for the first day was some FDA authorization of their tobacco product. So some decent news that way there. They do have $100 million shelf from July of 2020, but I'm thinking they were able to dilute in that pick apart from that already, so I don't think it's a full 100 million as of yet with how much time they had to dip into that little bucket there. And really, and again, as I'm using more of these comparison charts to try and build a trading plan off of, really no other high floater, high market capper especially was there in my little recent data that I've had to try and compare a second day play to today on this one. But just using the same principle of, I think it's a second day little sell-off or second day rest day, that there's not going to be a huge amount of volume coming into this one today. And just obvious risk levels here of, I know I'm going to be definitely want to be out by 352, but can I establish maybe a little bit better of a plan or game plan from this point of looking at any points to short into. So I'm starting on this one for the trade itself. I'm starting in looking at it at pre, saying, okay, it's looking weak. We're under VWAP here. And as I'm watching closer in the price action, I see a huge seller start to come in at 315. And then all of a sudden it either just gets eaten up or just disappears. Excuse me. And then this thing rides above VWAP and then just kind of teeters out, no real buying support to come in to push it harder to the upside. So I take my starter there to say, hey, I think this is just a little fake out similar to this point here, maybe this point here, the same type of thing, that we get a little fake out and then it starts to peel off down there into market open and continues a nice little fade. Maybe we test that $3 area. That'll be a nice point to start selling into, covering shares there. So that was the thesis on that first trade. And again, kind of like I mentioned in the introduction, with this paper, this is all mental trading. I'm essentially calling out verbally if I'm entering or exiting a trade. That's how I hold myself accountable to not be so wishy-washy of, if it starts spiking against me, like, oh, I really wasn't in that stock. It's my action of pushing a button. The same thing of calling them out verbally. So calling out, hey, let's take 300 shares here short at whatever it was on that first trade, 318, I think I was. Then sees a pullback, but it's just not really dying. It's still holding VWAP there, and then it starts to spike against that point and pretty much rides immediately to 3.2. I'll have to. That was a great watch today on the tape recap to get a screen recording of that to watch this one in reflection on that one today, because it was pretty much as it started to bounce back off of VWAP, it was at 3.2 immediately. So I said, okay, this is going against what my initial trade idea was. Let's regroup. Let's cut it and move on to the next one. 2-cent loss doesn't kill anybody. And that's the trap that I fell into so hard with the PDT rule of, because then normally I would be saying, well, it's not broken my key risk levels yet. And I mean, it's just 2 cents, right? It's just 2 cents against me. That's not crazy risk. And well, maybe I can still keep a risk of 3.4 or doing something stupid like that. And then I could totally see myself, or even like risking this little peak high here, 3.24, 3.25, maybe even. For whatever random reason, I would pick that point. I would just do stupid things when I would be so handcuffed to the PDT. And then I would probably have been covering in this little top here, 3.3, thinking, okay, well, it's spiking, it's going against me. There's huge volume coming in to push this thing. Let's dump it. And then sure enough, it starts to fall to the downside and just a beautiful landslide behind it. So that's how I feel. This strategy today, too, is a great case in point of why I'm wanting to do this more and more, is to say, hey, if it's not doing what you think it's going to do, just drop it and move on to the next one. As I'm going to be showing in my monthly recap here off of December, even through all of that, if it goes barely against you, if it does something slightly different and cutting it, my win rate has still doubled from what I was initially doing of trying to bag hold sometimes through all those just little misdemeanors and little choppiness before I enter a trade that way. So I'm definitely going to be pushing. There's, of course, a lot more room to keep going on top of that. It's still under 50% at this point, but it was not too hard to get above where I was at that initially in the previous months. But even there, yeah, I think this is at least some of the right direction to be going for my mental capacity as well, too, for the style of trader I am. But anyway, just get out as it's reversing against me and not following along with what idea I had in mind for what this chart could have done. Saw it spike in 2 minutes in pre here with decent volume, and then we see a little bit of rollover, and I say, well, let's try it again. I think that's all there was today, and again, the same thing, that I think there's a higher probability of the second day play because of the sentiment of the market that there's going to be at least a little bit of a sell-off to play into here, and sure enough, there certainly was. 323 was nice little entry there. Can nitpick and say maybe I could have gotten 324, 325, but that is so nitpicky on these ones. Covering again on the covers as well too. Oh, I could have waited a little bit more. Maybe covered the first share, both of these shares here, both of these exits. I think this would have equaled up to half of the position on these first two covers. Maybe I could have waited a little bit more to 304, 305 there for that first point. But in all of these, I just want to be taking profits as they're there and turning more what would have been losers or sometimes, like at best of times, break-even trades at time, how I used to trade back early November, even months before that as well. I would turn these little tiny, even if this stock fell below VWAP here and started to hover around 312 and then maybe spike against me and then retrace back to 323. If it started to do that, then it would be that little wishy-washy land where, okay, maybe I took a little bit of slippage if I was risking my entry point and then it ended up becoming a loser. But the overall trade was just stupid and it was kind of wasting my mental capital that way. Versus with these ones, of now I can take profits as they're there and pay myself along the way. And it's, of course, that's not my ideal. I want to be looking for that 10% profit area. And that's what I held myself to pretty hard on the morning dump strategy, is I would not be taking off profits if it did not reach 10%, and kind of screw myself out a little bit sometimes on that, but also got a lot more, saw the trade through a lot more times than not with that strategy. So again, it's just an adaptation and just learning of dancing how you need to be tangoing with the market that way, if it's going to allow you to do these types of trades that way. But paying myself along the way, getting nice little covers into what I thought were bidder strength of more buyers on the level 2 there, covering the nice flushes. I got a 301 for another 50. I was just putting, again, mental limit orders in at these points here of 301. Then I was going to hold these, I think I had like last 50 shares I was going to be holding, which would have been a sixth of the position, maybe 50. Yeah, a sixth of the position if I had 300 shares to go with initially, to think, okay, these are my kind of lottery tickets. I'm looking for a break of low a day. Let's look for 2.9 was my kind of key level there if it was going to hit there. And as it was not reaching there, then bouncing all the way back to VWAP, I said, okay, let's look for 3 if we're able to get there. So I had a mental order in, and sure enough, we got perfectly 3 candles here that were able to ride there. So technically got filled at that point for the last 50 shares, and that was the ride higher. That was the last exit point for the rest of the day, as it did reclaim above VWAP and then test these nice little levels here above 3.3, hold this range going into tomorrow. So it could be an interesting third day for tomorrow. We'll definitely keep an eye on and keep it on our charts watch list to use as that working memory to compare to any more future high float, high market cap movers that follow along similar price action like this in the next few coming weeks, to compare that to that way. But decent little trade on this one. Idea grade for me on this trade. I got to give it an A. I mean, it's full and 10% opportunity from 323, 325, going under $3 there, coming to 295. Opportunity was there. And that's really how I grade myself on the idea. Is there actual opportunity? Is there 10% profit opportunity in this trade? And that's the kind of grade scale I use on that one. And execution wise, I can give myself a B to say, well, maybe I should have been covering a little bit more, or a little bit later, give it a little bit of patience. But for me right now, I'm giving myself an A for how I was handling it. Not an A+, not an absolute perfect nail of it. But for covering that last year at 3, being able to kind of luckily picking that bounce point of $3 before it rode higher. But again, reaffirming that knowledge of pay yourself along the way. Do not get greedy. Try to bag hold these trades. Just trade the trade that is there and what the chart is telling you that way, and not what anybody else is telling you. So great little starter on that one. XXII, we'll go on to GRTX, my other trader on the day. So XXII got me 1 for 2 on the day after getting little quick stop out paper cuts, and then GRTX, kind of speculative trade again. This is multi-day breakout play, 10 million floater. Played this one many times in the past. This one's just in this continual little rise and run up here after that huge gap down in October is the 10th. Yeah. But yeah, again, anyway, going into this one, this was 10 shares that I was trading for just a super small speculative position size. I knew that as my first initial thought on this one was, okay, I know we got this $5 key, whole dollar level area. We got the breakout points. And my first thought was, okay, let's wait for the actual confirmation. Let's trade, let's on some strength there, and then potentially kind of like peep TPI from last week Thursday, whenever we took off of, okay, let's show that there's actually volume there to push this thing, and let's show that, and let's wait for a stronger conviction in the trade to be able to just push us in the mindset of we want to be trading on substance and not just continually speculative and loosely based risk levels and areas. But this one it kind of looked out a little bit on how that risk level worked, and started in with knowing that this is a very speculative trade. There was no confirmation at any point. This was a very low trader as well, too. Very low dollar volume, low number of trades in general that was happening on this one today, and even on a daily too, comparing it to previous days, just not really hitting beautiful marks. 13.7 million we're showing here, compared to 14 million that it did on that last week, and then 13 million again. So right in that same range for what should be a pretty optimal, like a $5 whole dollar level area, a breakout point. Like we should be getting a little bit more volume pushes there, just as overall confirmation on this trade. But even through that, just was very speculative in saying, okay, if we're breaking 4.6 here, then I know the trade's going to be over. It could be super choppy. It could come back and actually have the breakout later in the afternoon if it does break this point in the morning session. But we'll just throw it on there as the educational experience that this is, that I'm still totally in right now for my trading career. So just got in there, had a little bit of sell-off, choppiness, whatever it wants to do, but then nice double bottom above this 460 point, 461 maybe-ish. That was bouncing off here, and then eventually reclaimed, started to break to new high of day in market hours wise. And that was the point I knew I wanted to be totally, this was the thesis for the trade, and that's why I gave myself an A grade for the idea on the trade, is not even because there was 10% profit opportunity, because it was following along with what I wanted to be doing. And then the execution following alongside of that, of giving myself an A grade on that execution side, because I knew I wanted to be selling into that breakout point, which is a tool that I definitely wanted to be adding to the toolbox of taking off a position into that breakout point, not only as a way to pay myself along the way, but also to use that as an indicator of what the price action, what the stock is actually doing, and using that as a say, okay, did I get filled on my full position size there in that breakout? Did it take me a while to get filled as it was reaching that price? Did we just immediately speed through that level and just continue skyrocketing past it? It's not like that crazy different than compared to if I was actually in the trade still holding and not having a position, a limit order to get filled there. But it does just give that little bit more of an awareness and a withinness is the word that's coming to my mind now, of being present in the stock and getting the feel for what it's doing that way. So using that filter to go on that 485 level, the actual breakout, if we're using the post market where I actually traded this one short, that was last week Tuesday, 5.4 here that we kind of double topped a little bit actually, but 485-ish area, kind of that double top from last week Thursday was going to be my area of a breakout. Selling a little bit, taking off a little bit into that, and then looking at a little reversal attempt here that I sold again a little bit, this kind of choppiness just under 495 here as another takeoff point, and then left that last whatever percentage of shares, if it was 20%, I think, 2 shares of 10 share position. So if leaving a fifth of the position size on, left it as that lottery ticket to still be in the trade, thinking I know I've seen these go a lot more. And again, the same thing that I wrote here in my journal with all breakouts that we've learned from Brian Shannon on technical analysis, that especially with breakouts, you never want to be shortchanging yourself on profit targets, because it's a totally new, this isn't necessarily a totally new area with the gap down that we've had on the daily, but with just breakouts, of course, in general, it's totally new, undiscovered land. It's like landing on Mars. You just don't really know where the stops are going to be. Where's the resistance? Where's any amount of supply going to come in on this one? It's just kind of unforeseen territory, and you got to go by the seat of your pants, and nailing them perfectly is never going to be the necessary objective. It's certainly going to be awesome and sweet if you can somehow be selling into this, if we somehow find this perfect candle top here, but who's to say this thing didn't go a few more candles and top at 542 here and then just reject and back down. It's how choppy and a little wishy-washy these can be at times. It's definitely a good stretch. So that's why I do leave these on more and more, especially knowing that it was just a super small size of my position to say, hey, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let you do what you want to do. I'm going to let you ride all the way above $5 to the nice little breakout with huge volume there that it had. I'm going to let you reject hard, and I'm going to watch that all the way through to say, okay, wow, that definitely, if I was a little more antsier, would have stopped me out, and I would have been selling into this little bottom here and probably gotten a stupid fill below 4.9, and then felt stupid as it continued to ride up all the way just under 5.4. So giving that little bit of window and saying, okay, I'm kind of looking a little double toppy here after it had this nice little VWAP reclaim again. And okay, I'll take off the last ones here. And then did have a little bit of a sell-off, but sure enough goes on to spike to new high of day there. And just still choppy action all around. And I can't complain at this trade. I, again, just love taking profits as they are there and just not forcing more out of these trades than what should be rational. And I don't want to use the term logical, because logic is just such a death sentence in day trading and market-wise, and everything that way. But yeah, great charts to learn from, and I give myself an A looking at this one and on the execution side, and to say, well, you give yourself an A, but there was plenty more opportunity to be selling into. I mean, there was, 5-4 best sell being at, there's 40 cents almost of percent of profit that you potentially missed. To give yourself an A grade on that one is just, it's tough. But for the trade idea that I had going into this one and for where I was seated, maybe I do need a different perspective, and that's something to consider going forward with these trades. But that's the reason why I'm so small with these positions, and that's why I'm just so educational, experimental with these ones, is because I do need to eliminate that emotion and this bias of how I'm viewing these ones of, if I looked at this one with a full position size, to say, man, I had a nice profit on this one, and I actually had a very nice green day on this one. Whereas that could cloud my vision a little bit to not see, yeah, but you kind of left 40 cents on the table. And I know there's going to be a heck of a lot more trades where I leave a lot more on the table. But it is just pushing closer and closer to say, well, what was I misreading here to think that this one couldn't have gone a little bit further? And what potential signs are there for the next one to say, even if I do still take off pretty early in the move with a bulk of my position, what's to say that I can't leave that little lottery ticket on just a little bit longer and even draw it out? Because even if I did wait 2 hours on this trade, waiting from when I sold from 10, leaving it to 12, leaving it 3 hours, if I'm still selling around, if it's reclaiming above VWAP there, that little point, still get a little higher sell than where I was on that last little exit there. But great trade all around, and it's still in this breakout range. So we'll see if we have any amount of pullback or if we get any parabolic move there. That would be a potential opportunity to short into for the following day as a move there. But this, low floater, you just never turn your back on him. You can never get too greedy that way. Those are my traders on the day. AABB, I do have to mention, of course, the OTC. Nice little boy. Chris having a nice position, and a lot of the other homies on the chat with nice holds overnight. Art of War, especially on this little nice breakout move. Hopping over the 30 mark today. I think we gapped 230. We're opening here on this first candle. Yeah, just above 30 mark. Get a nice move and kind of double topping here for this little breakout just under 33, but then it does actually break there, kind of runs out of steam, then starts a little bit of panic, and where Sykes gets into that classic little over-exaggeration of perfect classic panic dip by here at this 29 mark. And you get a little bit there as it just taps 31 from that sell-off point, but it was not a panic dip buy. This thing was not even red from where it closed last week, Thursday, and then just continues to grind a little bit lower. That might have been a nice little shorting point. I think as Mark Crick was definitely heavy bias short on this one. And it's just, tough. And like I mentioned in the introduction, looking for a panic dip buy, we just haven't had a beautiful one as of late. It does start to roll over here into the close. It has a little sell-off here, and then that's a fake out dip buy, and then we're still getting pretty close to the close itself, which is that iffy point of, does it have enough time to run up into the close, or are there going to be enough buyers to step in to push this thing? Just kind of a guessing game at this point, but Sykes did actually buy this pretty nice little recognizable panic dip buy bottom here, just under 23.5 at that point. But again, a little close to the close for comfort, but does have a nice 10% profit opportunity from there off of that bounce. So we'll see what it wants to do. Not going to be a hard watch for me in these next few days here for this little sell-off that it have, but it's certainly going to need a few days to reculminate, regroup to see if any other recognizable pattern starts to come out on this style of trade in the next few days here. Those were the charts I wanted to mention. Then just kind of watching for the next few days here. PBTS had a nice little run into the close here. Still haven't found a news catalyst as of yet. 41 million floater. This is kind of Bitcoin, blockchain sector correlated, so potentially watching off of that. FT as well was running today. PBTS does have, they got a few warrants, they got a few convertible notes, little ATM action, they got a little shelf action. You can definitely smell the reek of manipulation on this ticker, so could be a kind of one and done little pump and dump right before the close action day. It's tough because of course this is a sub-dollar ticker that in reality I couldn't be trading short through trade zero since it is a sub-dollar, but just mentally I will be keeping this one on watch just as a potential indicator to see if any similar stocks in the next few weeks start to follow similar price action, or if we do get a potential nice continual fade into just lack of volume going into the close of after hours here, and then pre-market tomorrow, if there's just no volume, it continues to bleed out long and then rides the same type of slope downward tomorrow. That could be a nice potential playbook trade there as a first screen day short. I would consider in my playbook for that one. That is all that I had. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.